Hi Stitchy friends, my name is Barb. I am Stitch Brat here on YouTube on Flosstube, and also that is my handle over on Instagram if you want to follow me there. I am pretty active on Instagram and I post my progress on things I'm working on pretty regularly, several times a week. So that's a good place to check me out as well. Today is Sunday, July 7th, 2024. And I'm going to do a WIP parade today instead of my normal video. This is Flosstube number 13. And that means, since I record generally once a month, it's been just about exactly a year since the first video I made. So it's my unofficial Flosstube-iversary. So happy first Flosstube-iversary to me. Yay. So I thought I would do a WIP parade for that. I have a lot of WIPs, but this is not a total WIP parade. I do have a few things I'm not showing just because, although I do consider them, I guess, WIPs, I just haven't worked on them in forever, and maybe although I probably won't abandon them, I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm indecisive about it, or about the piece, or for some reason I just haven't decided what I'm going to do about it. So, or just haven't felt like getting back to it. So these are what I consider my more active WIPs, but there's still quite a few. And since there's quite a few, I'm going to try to go through them fairly quickly, and I'm not going to say a whole lot about each one. And if there may be some that, well, in fact, I know there's some where I won't know the exact name of the fabric or the color of the fabric or something like that. So in those cases, I'm sorry. Sometimes I didn't write it down, especially before I started keeping better track of things, which I've really only done recently. So in some cases, I may not have all the information, but if there's something you really want to know that piece of information I didn't give, just let me know in the comments and I'll see if I can figure it out or try to look it up. And as usual, my allergies are acting up, so if I have to blow my nose, I hope you'll forgive me. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get started. I think what I'm going to do is do some of my, well, most of the first ones are some of my older WIPs, and then I'll get into my most active, more current WIPs a little bit more toward the end. Except this first one, I guess, actually is pretty current. Okay, so let's just dive right in. My first WIP is from the Drawn Thread, and this is called The Autumn Garden. And I got this as a complete kit. This was a gift from my oldest son that I got for Christmas. And the Drawn Thread kits come with fabric and all the threads, and the threads are even arranged on these nice little thread cards. And if you know anything about the Drawn Thread, they mostly use silks, so it's all silk. And it's beautiful stuff. And there's several different kinds of silk, so I'm enjoying using some I've never used before. Okay. And this is on some kind of 30 count, I believe it's 30 or 32 count linen that was provided in the kit. I don't actually know what it is. I don't think they say. And here's where I am on that. So you can see I've just got mostly the house started. There are a lot of specialty stitches in Drawn Thread designs, and although I'm not afraid of them, and I've looked at the directions and I can certainly handle them, you know, I thought I would start out with kind of what I know, and so I started out with the actual cross stitch part first. I thought I would get the house done and then move into some of the flowers and things. Okay, and this next one is quite an old WIP, but it's one that I actually worked on this weekend. being in the United States, it's our Independence Day weekend. This is One Nation. This is by Bygone Stitches. This is a very popular design still, even though it's been out for quite a while. Basically a flag with the names of the states as the stripes. And this is huge, so I'm just going to do my best at showing it to you. Here's where I am. Let me see if I can back up a little bit. Can you see all of that? I hope so. There's the field of stars, which I got all the blue done and just got a little bored with all the white stars, so I thought I would start on the stripes. So I've got that first one done and then starting to work on the white on the second one. And this is, I'm stitching this on 32 count Lugana, and the color I believe is called Dark Cobblestone. And I think I'm using the called for DMC, although I might have changed the white. I'm not 100% sure. But basically I'm using what's called for there. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I've got my microphone set up and I can't stand up the way I have it set up, so unfortunately I just moved my camera. Okay, I hope that's still okay. I'm going to try not to do that again. I just knocked my glasses down. Okay, my next one is Blackberry House. And this is a sampler by Plum Street Samplers, and I do have a picture here. Let me get it. So this is from Plum Street Samplers. Paulette Stewart is the designer. This came out, I think, in 2015. It was very popular. I actually bought it more recently than that. I bought it on a trip to visit my older son in New York City, where he lives, and it was our first trip to New York City, and I bought this at a store there, so it has kind of a that bit of special meaning for me. And I think about him and that trip every time I pull this out. And here's where I am. I am not sure what the fabric is that I'm stitching this on. It's some kind of a sampler fabric, obviously. It looks like it's lightly modeled. I'm not positive what it is. I'll come in a little bit closer here. And the threads, I believe this calls for mostly overdyed cottons. And I'm using a combination of the called for overdyed cottons and some that were in my stash from a thread club I used to belong to. So some of them are the called for ones, and then the other ones I just tried to match up to the picture. For example, the silver that's on that little heading, or that banner up there, and that's going to be the big bowl, the big silver bowl. My silver is actually somewhat darker than what the the pictured color is, but I actually like it and I think it'll be fine for this. Other than that, most of the colors look pretty much like the called for colors. Okay, next we have, get this out of here. Okay, this is kind of a famous sampler. This is Dutch Beauty. This is from Perman of Copenhagen, and I would say this is probably one of their more well-known designs. I mean, you can see why looking at it. It's quite beautiful. Also, it's freaking enormous. I mean, I want to say this side is like 600 stitches and this is maybe 300 or something. I forget exactly. I try not to think about it too much. So it's, you know, it's not a short-term project. On 40 count fabric, you can squeeze it in on a fat half. So that ought to tell you how big it is. All right, where's my corner? There it is. Okay, I do not have all that much done, but here's where I am. I do have the entire border going the whole way around, at least the viney part, and I'm going back. And what it looks like I'm doing is I'm working in those green leaves or stems or whatever they are. I think I have a couple little flowers done, but only a couple. So that's where I am on that. I'm stitching this on 40 count light mocha linen. This is a Zweigart linen, not a overdyed, but it's very pretty and it's perfect for this. The colors, I'm using the colors as charted on this, I believe. I haven't planned to make any changes. I guess it's possible I will because I've seen some nice color conversions online. But so far, I'm good with what I've got. Oh, and I'm doing that for New Hampshire Stitchers Back to School Sal that she started last September. I'd already had it started, but I decided to work on it for that. It encouraged me to work on it during September, but I don't think I've worked on it since then, unfortunately. I need to get back to it, which is something you'll probably hear me say a lot today. Okay, my next WIP is A Savior's Praise. This is by Shakespeare's Peddler, Teresa Vanette, who's Kitten Stitcher. You all know her. This is one of her more popular samplers, I would say. This is an original design of hers. I mean, she's kind of made it to look like a reproduction, but it's not. It's an original. Of course, what attracted me to this was that fantastic border. And this is one of the few cases where I am not stitching the border first because it's really the meat of the design to me. So I'm kind of stitching it as, I got the vine part of it in, and then the interesting stuff I'm gonna just fill in as I go along, but I'm not really very far on this. But here's where I am. So as you can see, I have the whole border done. And then here's where I am. I'm not sure why I don't work on this more. I think this is just one where I tend to be one of those people that, I don't know, out of sight, out of mind. Unless I have something right in front of me, I tend to forget about it. And for some reason, I mean, this has been kind of on a lower shelf and I just haven't thought about it. And when I pull it out, I really enjoy working on it. This is on a 36 count linen. I'm not sure what it is. It might be a one-off from a fabric club that I used to belong to. I don't know the name of the color. I am using the anchor threads. Teresa provided thread packs, I believe you could get on her site at the time, and with all the anchor threads, because she was encouraging people to try anchor, and I bought the thread pack. And I like the anchor threads a lot. I mean, I've used them here and there before, but never for a whole sampler. And the main difference to me from DMC is that I don't think the anchor threads are quite as, maybe as shiny. Shiny isn't really the right word because DMC isn't shiny, but they're more matte than DMC threads, which is, it just depends on what you like, but the coverage is great. Okay, my next WIP is called Summer Beauties, and this is, the designer here is Ellen Maurer-Stroh, She's a German designer, and she does a lot of cutesy designs with little babies dressed up in animal costumes. And then she does stuff like this. So, real traditional looking. I mean, this looks like a reproduction probably of a Victorian print or something like that. But she has a lot of very old fashioned looking bouquets of flowers and things like that. And I'm stitching this on 32 count antique white Jobelin. And here's where I am. So I have a couple of the big flowers almost finished and some of the leaves. I actually really enjoy working on this. And I think I haven't worked on it more because I don't really love the fabric. I mean, it's okay and I'll continue with it. I don't dislike it that much. But as far as even weaves, I prefer Lugana. And I don't know, the Jobelin is a little more, I don't know if I'd call it slippery or silky. To me, it's just, for some reason, it's just a little bit harder to work on. I'm not sure what it is. Okay, my next WIP I don't have a picture of. This is a PDF, so I will put a picture in here. This is called Peacock Heart, and the designer's name is Alice Allen, but I can't find the name of her Etsy shop. It doesn't seem to be on my materials. So if anyone wants to know, I will be happy to try to look it up and find it. It might be Hall X Stitch or something like that, because I remember it didn't actually have her name in it. But she's actually a great designer, and she has some really nice things on her site. So this is Peacock Heart, and I'm stitching this on, here it is. I'm stitching this on 32 count white linen, white opalescent linen. So you probably can't see it here. I don't know, even if I wave it. But it has, I don't know if you can see it up close. I don't think so. It has those sparkly Northern Lights looking, Aurora Borealis looking threads in it. And I actually don't mind them on linen. So this is, I believe, 4 colors. I think there's a couple of reds and a couple of pinks. And they're really kind of unusual colors, but they're very pretty. And if you've been following me for very long, or if you follow me on Instagram or you've been watching me at all here on Flosstube, you probably know that I love heart designs. It's one of my favorite things. So, and I like peacocks too. Peacocks were really kind of trendy there for a while, so I think that's what got me interested on that one. Okay. And next one. This is Joan Sands. This is by Modern Folk Embroidery. And let me see if I have a picture here. Oh, okay. I have a black and white, so I will put a picture in here. Modern Folk Embroidery. This is Jacob. And here's where I am. A lot of people stitched this a number of years ago. I think I started it around the same time, but I just haven't finished it. I'm not sure why. It's not very big. It's very pretty. I've got the whole border done. I've got that top alphabet done and some of the other lettering. I realize I have the house and stuff, but I mean, if I didn't make a concerted effort, I could get this done pretty quickly because it's not very big, and I don't know why I haven't, which again, you'll probably hear me say a lot today. So this is on 32 count linen by R&R Reproductions called Sheep's Straw. And it's really a very pretty color. It is I mean, it's showing up as sort of a tan, and it is a tan, but it has warm undertones to it, and they just really pick up in person. They pick up like the pinks in that carnation border. Really pretty. Okay, I think that's all my older WIPs. So now we're going to get into the ones that are a little more, oh shoot, this is not what I wanted. Well, we'll get into ones that are a little more current, or that I work on maybe more often. I don't know. Okay, the first one is my morning coffee project. This is called Star Touched Meadow, and it's a stitch along by Carolyn Manning, and she's one of my favorite designers, which if you've watched me at all, you probably know. I'm not going to show a picture of the whole finished thing because it's a stitch along, so all the pieces haven't been released, so there isn't a whole picture, but also you'll get the idea as soon as I show you my whole thing and where I am. So here's where I am. Maybe I'll do that as my screenshot. What do you think? Okay. I have 5 months, 5 of the releases done, so I'm a couple months behind. On the bottom there in the middle, that's November, starts November, and next to it is December, and then up here is January, February, March, and I'm starting on the April, or I've got a little bit of headway on the April block. I've been doing about one a month, but I would like to increase that pace because I would like to be done by the end of the year, and I think I have to increase my pace a little bit in order to do that. But I'm going to come in a little bit and just show you some of these because they are just, I don't know, I think these designs are incredible. These are sort of mini versions of her shooting star designs, and it's going to be a gorgeous piece when it's done. It's gorgeous now. It's one of my favorite things to work on. It wasn't initially, but it's really become a favorite. I'm stitching this on 18 count pale pink Aida, and that's turned out to be a great fabric for this. I'm using 2 strands of floss, which I always do on 36 count linen or 18 count Aida. So it looks, I mean, the coverage is great, and I think it looks wonderful. I have a whole crate of WIPs today. My crate is full. Okay, this is Act of God by Long Dog Samplers, and I'll put a picture in here. This came out last, I don't know. This came out earlier this year, I think. So I'm stitching this on 40 count Vintage Country Mocha linen. Here's where I am. I'll show the whole thing first. So I have the whole border done, which if you've ever done a long dog, that is not an insignificant thing. Julia's borders are often kind of, I mean, they're simple. They're usually just lines. This one has a little bit of laciness to it. It's simple, but you know, it's, I mean, the whole way around for, I don't know, 300 stitches or whatever is fairly big. Okay, so I'll come in on this part that I have done. I started on this one corner, as you can see. I started this with my friend Gail for a stitch along she's doing called the Act of God 2024 Sal, if you are interested in that. Gail is GW Stitch and Depot on Instagram, and she also has an Etsy shop where she sells cross-stitch goodies, so you should check her out. And the floss I'm using for this is, I never can quite figure out how to hold this up, but in front of the fabric, but it's this. It's a Silks for You floss, silk floss, and it's PR 181 is the number. They don't have colors, they number them. And I'm using 1 strand of that floss over 2 threads of the linen. And it gives great coverage. I would say this is currently my most popular piece when I show it on Instagram. It's mostly because of that wonderful floss. People always comment on how lovely it is, and I'm totally in agreement. And it goes with that Vintage Country Mocha linen. The color is just, it goes great. I just love it. Gail, I think, is on pace to have hers finished by her birthday next year, which is in March. And I was trying to keep up with her, but I just can't do it. I work on it often, but she's more of a 10 whips or fewer kind of person, which I greatly admire, believe me. And I have way more, so I just can't do it, but I'd love to. All right, my next one is actually one I worked on last night. This is Southern Land. I'll pop a picture in here by Owl Forest Embroidery. And this one, I am really hoping for a finish this month in July. This month. Here's where I am. So you can see I don't have that much left. I need to finish that floral panel on the one side, and then that little panel there on the other side of that motif, and then there's some vases on the bottom. But I mean, I could easily get that done this month if I make a concerted effort. I just need to make sure I pull this out every couple of days and work on it. This is on 32 count white linen, and I'm stitching it with the Owl Forest has their own floss, but I did not buy that for this. I'm using the DMC alternatives that they give you, and there's only 4 colors. There's 2 reds and 2 blues, and they really are wonderful. Okay, here's one of my the first of my many Carolyn Manning shooting stars, although coincidentally also the one I've started most recently. This is Squash Blossom. So the shooting stars are my favorites of her patterns, Carolyn's patterns. I love them all, but the shooting stars are my favorite. I love the interplay of colors. So here's where I am on Squash Blossom, which like I said, I think I started this pretty recently. And the colors in this are just wonderful. Oranges, yellows, beautiful greens, rust, really, really pretty. And I'm stitching this on 32 count Lugana in the color Amber Yellow, which I just happen to have in my stash, and it goes perfectly. But all my shooting stars, which I have a number of them going, you'll see, I'm doing them all in 32 count Lugana. My plan is that someday they'll all be pillows, and so I want a little bit of colored border around each one of them when they get turned into a pillow. Okay, this I think is, except for my Mill Hill, is my one and only kit. And this is a Luca S kit. Here's the picture, what it'll look like. It's just called Roses. There's a companion design to this, which I think is called White Roses or Pink Roses or something, but it's pretty similar. And you can tell it's by the same artist. Has a very watercolory look. It's very pretty. Luca S wonderfully, nicely sent me this kit for free. They contacted me and asked if I'd like to try one of their kits. Yeah. And I got to pick it out, and they sent it to me. So their kits are pretty wonderful. The threads come on these thread cards, and they have the symbol marked on them, and then, or the symbol marked on them here. And then over here they include a little hole that can be punched out where you can put your working thread if you're not finished with it. So really handy. You can just work right off of these. And this one has 4 thread cards because that's how many threads there are, but you know, it's however many you need. And their materials are all very high quality. They say that on the front. This is Weigart Aida. It's 16 count Aida. Here's where I am. And the threads that they give you are anchor threads, and they say that right on the front. So I really like that they use not just use quality materials, but they tell you what their materials are. And as you can see, here's the other thing. When was the last time you had a kit with that much clearance around, that much margin around the fabric? I'm very pleased about that, having a little bit of a real margin on my fabric. Because I use a hoop, so I like to have a little extra. I just think this is really pretty, like especially from back here. I love it. This is almost full coverage, not quite. There's a little bit at the bottom, a little bit of white that is not stitched. But for the most part, it's full coverage. However, I'm finding it very fun to stitch. It has a nice combination. It's not super confetti heavy. There are a couple areas with confetti, but it's mostly blocks, smaller blocks of colors or little runs of colors. Okay. Okay, this one I do have a picture of, I think. Oh, I thought I did. Yes, here it is. Okay, this is Remember Me by Teresa Kogut. And as you can tell from this, I printed this off when it was originally a Patreon design, which it was released for Patreon in September of 2022. And I fell in love with it immediately and started stitching it right away. And you'd think I'd have it finished, but I don't. But here's where I am. And obviously what attracted me was that fantastic floral border. But I will say, stitching it is no joke. All those flowers are filled in. I mean, it's heavy stitching. But, you know, that's Teresa's style. So I knew what I was getting into. But it's really beautiful. So I'm stitching this on a 37 count legacy linen. It's like, it has something to do with bees. I can't remember exactly what the name of it is. It has kind of a pretty undertone to it. It's kind of warm. It's a beige, but it's a really pretty, and it's just very light sort of modeling. It's really nice fabric. I'm finding the 37 count. I'd never used legacy linen before, and it's been a little bit difficult for me. It's much tighter than regular linen. And I'm using 2 threads because I normally would have used 2 threads on 36 count, and I didn't think 37 would be any different. But on legacy linen, it really is different. And I probably should have gone with 1, but I'm too far, way too far in now to change that. Or I could have gone with a higher count legacy linen, like I think they have a 35 or a 33, or they have sort of odd counts. And I probably could have used that instead, and it would have been fine. Okay, my next one is another shooting star. This is Beachcomber by Carolyn Manning. And this is of my shooting star patterns that I have not yet finished. I have finished a number of them. This is my oldest one that I have not finished. And here's where I am on that. So I have found that bottom corner, yay. But obviously I have a lot to go. I don't know, I'm probably, maybe a third done, maybe. This is one of her, this particular colorway has been very popular. A lot of people who are maybe only doing one Carolyn Manning choose this one. The colors are really beautiful. So I'm stitching this one on 32 count. I believe it's light blue Lugana. And called for colors. I rarely, if ever, substitute colors on Carolyn Manning's, but particularly not on the shooting star designs. Okay, excuse me for just a second. I gotta fix my crate or everything's gonna come tumbling down. Okay, my next one is another Carolyn Manning design, but not a shooting star. This is from her stained glass collection. This is called Garden Glass, and I'll put in a picture here. She has a bunch of these in different colorways. They're all extremely beautiful. This one, here's where I am on this. So I have the whole border done and 2 of the little windows. I need to get back to this. I told you I'd keep saying that. Need to get back to this. This is on 16 count pale yellow Ada from Witchelt. I believe the actual color is called Sun Shower. It's really quite pretty. That's probably a nice, true rendition of the color. And then the called for threads, DMC colors. I think there's only like 10, and they're very bright, as you might expect on a stained glass window type design. I just love this. I need to work on it more. Has there ever been anyone who did a WIP parade that didn't say that about pretty much every WIP they pull out? Okay. The next one is, I think this is my newest Carolyn Manning start. This is Peachy Keen, and I'll put a picture here. This is from one of her newer collections. I think it's called the Bouquet Collection. And here's where I am on that. I don't have a ton done. It's pretty, you have to focus on this. It's pretty fussy stitching, but really fun. I mean, a lot of color changes, but it's fun to stitch. So this I'm stitching on 36 count linen by Bestitch Me, and the color is called Into the Veil. And it's not photographing very well. It's actually a really, really pretty green, and it's photographing more like a gray or a gray green, and it's not. It's definitely a green. And I've got a great big piece here because my plan is I can do another one of these designs. Prettiest Pink is my plan. I can do it next to this when I'm done with this one. I won't probably frame them together or anything, but might as well get maximum use out of that piece of fabric. Okay. This next one I am stitching with my friend Carla, Stitch Me Sane. She is both on YouTube and on Instagram as Stitch Me Sane. We have a sal going for these kinds of designs. It's called Historic Houses Sal. Houses plural, sal. And I'll put that in the description. I'll put sal names if I can remember them in the description. If you want to check those. So this is Porter Ash Residence by Debbie Patrick. And this design is from the 80s or early 90s. And Debbie Patrick did most of her work then. And she charted many, many historic homes around the United States. These kind of Victorian looking houses. Like here's a few of the ones she did that are on the back of this. They're all, of course, they're out of print, but you actually can find them pretty easily on the secondary market. Both eBay and Etsy, you can find them. And Carla is doing not a Debbie Patrick pattern, but I believe it's Olga Gostin. I might have that name wrong, but she was somebody who did the same thing in Australia. Carla's from Australia. She did the same thing with historic homes in Australia. So we're encouraging anybody who's doing a historic house pattern to join us on the SAL. So here's where I am on Porter Ash Residence. And honestly, I think this pattern is amazing. I think Debbie Patrick is like a genius because like I don't even have any back stitching in, and there's a ton of back stitching in this design. And doesn't this just look, it's so realistic. Like I just love it. So I'm stitching this on a 16 count Ada, and it's from Witchelt, and the color is, well, it's like a blue. I'm not exactly sure. They have several blue, gray, gray kind of colors. And I don't seem to have the color written down here, but if you want to know, I can try to look it up for you. And I chose Aida on purpose for that because my personal feeling is that backstitching, and there's a ton of backstitching on that design, backstitching looks better on Aida. Like the lines come out crisper, especially when there are a lot of straight lines going in either direction, and that's what this is. So I purposely picked that. Okay. Next up is Anne Grimshaw, 1818. This is another very popular sampler. This is by the Scarlet Letter. And I originally started this for Jacob's. He did Black Sampler November. I want to say, well, probably 2021. And that's when I originally started this. And I'm not finished with it, but it's huge in my defense. That's not really an excuse, of course, but here it is. Here's what I have done. So this is a Quaker sampler, as you can see. And I've got 3 rows of the Quaker motifs done, plus some of this other side and some of the next row. And then I started on some alphabets, I guess, for variety. I'm stitching this on 36 count flax linen, as Zweigart linen, 2/2, but I'm using anchor black for this. I actually wanted to get like a silk or a variegated black or something kind of exciting for this, since, you know, I was going to do this enormous sampler in black. But as I said, this was in 2021, so kind of still in the pandemic times, and this was actually when supplies were at their worst. And because of Black Sampler November and the popularity of it, there was like nothing. There were no variegated blacks to be found of anything, cotton or silk or anything. So I ended up with anchor black, but it looks great, I think. Okay, my next one is called Soup of the Day, and I'll put a picture in here. This is from Nikki Pattern on Etsy, and this is just a fun design. She has a lot of cute, she's one of my favorite Etsy shops. She has a lot of cute wreath designs in particular, and I've stitched several of them as gifts. This one's going to be for me to hang up in my kitchen. And here's where I am. This is another one that really, there's not that much stitching to it. I have one more group of flowers to stitch, and then the leaves, and then the words in the middle, which really are not that cumbersome. I could get this done, and then I'd have it in my kitchen where it should be. So this is just with DMC colors, the called for on, it's a piece of 32 count cream linen that I had in my stash. It was the end of a piece that was sort of a favorite of mine that I'd had for years. It's not Zweigart linen, I really don't know what it is, but I sure wish I had more of it. I just love it. Okay, so next up is my one and only Mill Hill kit. This is one of their kits that's on fabric rather than perforated paper. This is called Floral Fantasy. Well, the series is Floral Fantasy, and this is Floral Yellow number 2. I always get the name wrong. There's a Floral Yellow number 1, and there's a Floral Blue 1 and 2. And these are designs by Debbie Mum. And I first saw this Brenda, Handwork Maniac, do this. And of course, she's long since finished it. I'm sure she polished it off in a couple of months. And I just fell in love with it. So this is on 16 count Pale Yellow Aida, the kit that came in the kit. I'm using all the kit materials. And here's where I am. So I have 3 of the flowers started, and most of the holes that you see, like in that green flower in particular, that's where the beads are going to go. There's quite a few beads on this. I think there's 6 or 7 different colors of beads and different size, 2 different sizes. I I haven't really decided. I'll probably do the beads at the end because I think the whole thing will fit into a hoop that I have, and I can keep the whole thing taut and do it. But the colors in this are really, really pretty. I think there's the, get an idea of the colors. They're really pretty. Kind of autumnal, although the end result isn't necessarily autumnal looking. I enjoy stitching on that. All right, next is ink circles. This is Circus of Circles. Tracy has a series of these circus patterns. There's Circus of Hearts, squares, triangles, I forget what else. This is the circles one. And this one, they're all beautiful. I hope to stitch more than one someday. So I'm stitching mine on 16 count black Aida. And here's where I am. This was conveniently folded right where I ended, so I just unwrap it or unfold it. Of course, there's the true black color. I'll come in closer so you can see the pattern a little better, and the floss. It's going to blow out the black, but it does help you see the stitching and stuff. So here's the floss I'm using. It's from a company called Dying for Cross Stitch. They're in California, and it's a silk floss, and this color is called Earthwalker. And their silks in particular are very affordable. They're a little more, you have to be a little more careful with them when you work with them than other silks that I've used. They're maybe a little, they fuzz up a little easier, but really you can't beat the price. I mean, if you're someone who likes to economize, or you need to not spend that much, but you'd like to use silk floss, I recommend trying their products because they really are, they're really nice. The flosses are really nice. And then the silks are, I think they're one-offs when she's sold all of one colorway of silk. I don't think she dyes that one anymore, or at least that exact one. Okay, this is another Shooting Star by Carolyn Manning. This is Peacock Topaz. I'm not actually sure when I started this one. I don't have very much done though, so I'm not it might have been last year that I started this one. The colors in this one are amazing. She also has a Shooting Star colorway called Northern Lights, and the colors in this are actually similar to that, but the design is different. But a lot of teals, magentas, dark pink, greens, blues. It's just beautiful. And I'm stitching this on 32 count. This is either blue or light blue Lugana. I'm not 100% sure. To me it looks the same as the other one, as Beachcomber, so it's probably light blue. And pardon me again for sipping my coffee, but my throat does get dry. Okay. Here's another Carolyn Manning Shooting Star. This one is called Grandma's Lilacs. I'll put a picture in here. This one I started with Carla, Stitch Me Sane. We started it last year on Mother's Day, which I believe is the same in Australia and the US, which is why we started it on that day. And here's where I am. You'd think I'd have more done after more than a year, but for some reason I don't. Carla and I both love purples and greens together. Lilacs are my favorite flower, in fact. I have lilac bushes in my yard. I love them. I love the smell. So this was kind of a no-brainer for me to start this one. This is on 32 count Lugana. The color is, it's either lavender or lilac. I think it might be lavender. But obviously it's a pale purple, goes great. And as usual, no changes to the colors, just using the called for colors. Okay, another shooting star. Are you getting the hint that I really like her shooting star designs? This is Cherry Blossom. I'll put a picture in here. This one I believe I started last fall. And I'm actually a little further on this one than on some other ones that I may have started later than this, or earlier than this. And the reason was because I was helping, Carla does stitching games on Facebook, and I was helping her team for 48 hours or something, and I had to count my stitches, and I don't use Pattern Keeper, so I decided to start a new shooting star, and these are easy to count, you know, because the diamonds are all a certain number of stitches, so it was pretty easy to count my stitches. And I stitched a lot. I mean, I didn't do this whole thing in 48 hours, but I stitched a lot that 48 hours. So this is on, I think this is just antique white, 32 count Lugana. This is all kinds of beautiful pinks in there, and I think I decided pink background would maybe not suit it, or maybe be too, like I didn't want it to look baby pink kind of thing. So anyway, I went with the white Lugana. I'm happy with that. Okay, here's another reproduction sampler. Where's my... Oh, this one is a little bit oversized. It's a little bit hard to get out. Okay, this is Louise Lallier, 1901. This is by Reflet de Soie. Obviously a French sampler. French samplers, you can always tell because they always seem to have these, at least from this time period, these elaborate floral borders, and also they usually have scenes rather than little motifs or something, and the scenes are incredibly realistic. I mean, they're shading and they're just really quite beautiful. And Reflet de Soie has tons of them. So I'm not sure if ones from other time periods are significantly different, but okay. Okay, Louise is big. Here's where I am on Louise. I'll do it like this first. And I finished that side and I'm ready to turn the corner on the border. So I'm trying to get this side the same, and then I'll do that bottom border, and then I'm going to come in and you can just see, I mean, the border is very intense. Every flower, I mean, there's like 12 colors of green in those leaves and stems, but it's so beautiful. So I have the alphabet done too, and started on a little bird. Maybe I'll do this. Should I do this for a screenshot? You have to pose your screenshots or you get a bad one. Anyway, I love this. Okay, so this is on 36 count antique ivory, linen by Zweigart. And antique ivory is kind of an unusual color. You don't really see it very much, but it's more of a cool neutral. The undertones are cool rather than warm and creamy, and it suits this color palette. And I actually think this was one that they give several recommended fabrics on the back of the pattern, and I believe they give them by color number, by Zweigart color number. And I ended up looking them up, and that was one of the recommended ones, and I really like it. I'm really glad I chose that. Oh, okay. This is Quaker's Pride. Okay, I have a black and white picture, so I'll put a color picture in here. This is by Historische Stickmuster. And you can get this from their website, and they have other gorgeous designs. These are the threads. There's only 4 colors, a black, gray, a white, and a red. I did change my colors a little bit on this, and I'll explain why in just a second. I believe it goes like this. Oh, wait. Nope, it goes like this. This one isn't marked. I normally mark my corners. So here's where I am. And I believe this is on 36 count stone gray linen by Zweigart. I forget what the called for linen is, but I think I couldn't find it, or maybe I just didn't like it or something. But when I actually got my linen and I looked and I held the threads up against it, the gray did not go with the gray of my fabric. So I ended up picking a different gray that went better with the fabric I had chosen. And then I think I needed to, I think I may have altered the white too. I'm not sure what it called for, but I think this might be 3865, which is my favorite white. I can't remember, but anyway, I know I changed the gray. But that was just, like I said, to match the fabric, to go with the fabric better. Okay, next, oh, I have a picture of this one. This is Alice by Donna Stitch. Donna Stitch is a Korean designer, I believe, and you can find her shop on Etsy. She has a whole bunch of patterns that are in this series of like fairy tales. And this is, the stitching itself is all full coverage. I mean, it's not a square, but what's there is full coverage. And so there are a lot of stitching, but they're really amazing. And her style is just so whimsical and fun and playful. This is another one I started with my friend Carla, Stitch Me Sane. And here's where I am. I believe we started this. This is we have a Sal for this. I believe it's the Everything Alice Sal. I'll put that in the description box. And we were commemorating the publication of Alice in Wonderland, which was November something. So we actually started this in November, although not November this year. It was November 22. So again, you'd think I'd have more done after more than a year. I'm stitching this on 32 count opalescent Lugana, and that's actually one of the things. This is a challenging piece for me. I find opalescent fabrics easier to deal with in linen than in Lugana or even weave for some reason. Maybe it's just that even weave threads are so perfect and plump that when you add in those shiny threads, it just plays havoc sometimes with my eyes. So I have to be careful to not do too much at one time. I try to restrict, like I do an hour or so at a time, and after that, and then I just put it away because then I'll make mistakes, is what happens. Okay, this is Spring Quaker by Leila's Studio. This was very popular design when it came out. No, that's not true. At first it wasn't popular, and then it caught on. It took a little while to catch on, because I remember thinking after I bought this, how come I'm not seeing this everywhere? It is so gorgeous. But it did catch on and became wildly popular, and then her summer one has also been wildly popular. I would like to stitch that one too eventually, and I'm sure she's doing the other seasons She might have done the autumn one already. I'm not positive. But I'm not very far on this, so I shouldn't be talking about doing another one. This is, I don't know what the linen is on this. I'm sorry. I did not write it. I didn't think I wrote it down for some reason. But here's where I am. I don't have a lot done. It's very pretty. This one calls for mostly overdyed cottons, and then she gives you a DMC conversion. And I'm using the DMC threads, not the overdyeds. And to be quite honest, if I had it to do over again, which I guess I do, I can always start again, I would use the overdyeds. Not because I don't like the DMC colors, but I think some of them are, I mean, there's a big stitched areas of colors that are maybe not the most exciting browns and stuff to stitch with. And the variegation, I think, seeing it on other people's WIPs of this or finished pieces of this, I think it adds a lot. And I often don't use the variegated flosses. I sometimes don't love them, but this is one where I think it would have looked great and I just should have done it, but I didn't. Okay, here's another Carolyn Manning Shooting Star. This is another older one. This is called Home for the Holidays. This is Christmas colors, as you might expect. And since this is older, I do have a little more done on it. I love the colors in this. They're Christmas colors, but sort of Victorian shades. Like the reds are mostly those dark wine colors, and then there's golds, and there's beautiful dark greens. And the Lugana on this is, I believe it's just called light green. But that's really a nice, that's true color right there. It's a really pretty kind of mossy green color. It's just beautiful. And it goes perfectly with the DMC colors that are called for there. Okay. Hey, this is my last WIP, and then I have one more thing to talk about, and we're done. So that's not too bad. Okay, this is Arctic Blast. I'll put a picture in here. This is a free pattern that Carolyn Manning released on her Facebook, into her Facebook group. So you need to join her Facebook group if you're interested in this. You can still get the chart. It's not in the files section. I'm not exactly sure how you get it, but if you do a search, I believe the post will come up for you where it is. And here's where I am. I should have more of this done too, but I don't. Oh, I love this one too. So pretty. With the wintry, icy blues, grays, whites. I'm stitching this on 32 count Silver Moon Lugana. And this is a full-size shooting star design that she released for free in her Facebook group. So it's actually been pretty popular. Even lately, I see requests for it, and it's a lovely design. Okay, that's all the WIPs I'm going to show you today. Yay! So I only have one other thing I wanted to mention, which is a stitch along that I'm starting. And it starts this Friday, officially, although there's no real rules. July 12th. And this is for one of Carolyn Manning's patterns. I'll put it up here. It's called Susan. And this is from her bouquet collection. And she designed this as a tribute to a friend of hers, Susan, who passed away from cancer earlier this year. And it's a fundraiser pattern to benefit the American Cancer Society and also Susan's family. So I started a stitch along for this because I would like to support that. And it's a beautiful design that I want to stitch. So I started the stitch along and I'm encouraging others to join with me. I'm doing this in memory of my mom, who passed away a number of years ago from cancer. And I've thought about doing something in her memory for a long time, could never find the right pattern, so this is it for me. It's perfect. Um, so I'm encouraging people to stitch this maybe in memory of a loved one of yours that passed away from cancer, or to honor a survivor of cancer or someone who's currently dealing with cancer, or maybe just because you want to support a good cause and it's a pretty pattern. The pattern is available on Carolyn's site in PDF format, and it's right on the front page under the What's New section. I'm going to stitch mine on this 18 count. I believe this is Rustico Ada. I just had this in my stash, but I just decided to use it. And the colors are, well, you can't really see them in this, but they're reds and greens, very pretty. So there's no strict rules on the SAL. If you can't start on Friday, no big deal. If you want to start sooner than Friday, that's fine too. The hashtag is CM Remembrance SAL, and I will try to put that across the screen here if I can remember how to do that. That's always a tricky edit for me. But I also put it in the description box where I'm going to try to put all the names of the SALs. So I hope you'll join in, and if you do, you'll need to find that hashtag to post your pictures on Instagram. And again, if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm Stitch Brat, so you can also find my post. If you want more details, go to my post at Stitch Brat on Instagram, and you can, there's really not any more details. I mean, that's really it. It starts on Friday, there's no rules, and that's the hashtag. So, but we've got quite a few people joining in already, and I hope you'll join us. So in any case, that's my WIP parade. I'll be back again, hopefully at the beginning of August, with my catch-up of normal stitching from July. So until then, I would just encourage you to slow down and try to enjoy life and take things one stitch at a time. So I'll see you in a few weeks, stitchy friends. Bye.